The rain tapped softly against the tinted windows of the Rolls-Royce as Alexander Grant waited at the red light in downtown Boston. He barely noticed it, too busy on a conference call with a tech investor in Tokyo. Billionaire, CEO of one of the fastest-growing AI companies in the world, and a man constantly in motion, Alexander rarely had time to look out at the world beyond his spreadsheets and deals. But something caught his eye that made the words on his screen fade into static. A small flower shop nestled between a laundromat and a diner. Its window fogged by the early spring chill. Inside, a woman bent gently over a bouquet of tulips, her hands moving with a kind of grace and care that felt strangely familiar. Then she turned slightly, brushing a strand of auburn hair behind her ear, and his heart froze. Claire. His ex-wife. The woman he hadn't seen in over 4 years. The woman he left behind when his ambitions eclipsed everything else. She looked older, not in a worn way, but softer. Wiser. There was a warmth to her eyes that had been missing in their penthouse arguments and late-night apologies. But that wasn't all. Next to her stood a toddler, no older than 3, stacking tiny pots into a pyramid and then laughing when they collapsed. The sound somehow carried through the glass and through the steel walls Alexander had built around his heart. The boy had tousled brown hair, dimples, and a smile that mirrored one Alexander saw every day, in the mirror. Alex? Alex, are you still there? The voice on the phone jarred him back to the present. I'll call you back, he said abruptly, hanging up and opening the car door. The rain welcomed him like a long-lost friend as he crossed the street, each step hesitant, like wading into a past he thought was buried under years of wealth and distraction. He paused just outside the door, watching her help a customer, her face lighting up in a way he remembered all too well. She hadn't seen him yet. The bell above the door jingled as he stepped inside. Claire looked up, her eyes widening in disbelief. There was a long, suspended silence, thick with memories and unanswered questions. Alex? Her voice was barely above a whisper. He nodded, suddenly unsure of what to say. The boy looked up from his pot pyramid and stared at him with the wide-eyed curiosity only children possess. Is this, your shop? Alexander asked, his voice uncharacteristically unsure. It is, Claire said carefully. Started it a year ago. Helps pay the bills and, keeps me sane. His eyes drifted to the child. What's his name? She hesitated. Ethan. He swallowed hard. How old is he? 3 in June. 3 years ago. The timeline slammed into him like a freight train. He looked at her, and she knew what he was thinking. I tried to tell you, she said gently. But you were in Zurich, or Singapore, or, everywhere but here. And after a while, I stopped trying. Guilt wrapped around his chest like a vice. Why didn't you come after me? She gave a sad smile. Because I didn't want him to feel like he was chasing someone who didn't want to be found. There was no anger in her voice. Just quiet strength. Alexander dropped to one knee, eye level with Ethan. Hey, buddy. The boy tilted his head. Hi. Do you like flowers? Ethan giggled. Mommy says I'm good at making happy flowers. He chuckled softly. I bet you are. He looked up at Claire, tears threatening to betray the stoicism he wore like armor. I didn't know. I didn't know he existed. If I had. I know, she said. The moment hung there, sacred and raw. A billionaire kneeling in a flower shop, facing the only wealth he never knew he needed. In the weeks that followed, Alexander rearranged his life. Board meetings were moved, deals postponed. He started showing up at the flower shop every afternoon, learning how to wrap bouquets, how to trim roses, and how to be a father. Ethan took to him quickly, as if his little heart recognized something his mind couldn't yet articulate. They built Lego cities in the back room, made daisy crowns, and read bedtime stories when Claire had late-night inventory. One night, after closing, Claire found Alexander sweeping the floor, humming a lullaby to Ethan who had fallen asleep in a crate of marigolds. "You're different," she said, watching him from the doorway. He looked up. "No. I'm finally becoming who I should have been." She walked over, kneeling beside him. "People don't change overnight." "I didn't," he replied. "I just remembered who I was before I forgot what really matters." There was silence, and then she said, "I see it." And that was enough. Months passed. The flower shop grew busier. Alexander funded a full renovation, but refused to change the name, Claire's Garden. He set up a college fund for Ethan, started mentoring local kids in STEM, and took on fewer speaking gigs. One snowy December evening, he knelt down beside Ethan, now 4, holding a small box. "This is for your mommy," he whispered. The boy beamed and took the box, running to Claire, who was lighting a candle in the window. "Mommy. Daddy got you something." Her eyes widened. It was the first time Ethan had called him that. She opened the box slowly. Inside was a ring. Not extravagant. Simple. Elegant. A tiny flower design nestled between two modest diamonds. "Claire," Alexander said, stepping forward, his voice trembling, "I don't want to buy back the past. I just want to build a future. If you'll have me." Tears streamed down her cheeks as she nodded, too moved to speak. They embraced, the three of them, in a circle of light and warmth that glowed brighter than any skyscraper or stock ticker. And so, the billionaire found his treasure not in assets or acclaim, but in a humble flower shop, with the woman he never stopped loving and a child who taught him what it meant to bloom again. Because sometimes, the most beautiful gardens grow from the seeds we once forgot to water.